So welcome to this video on the Behringer Model D, or the Boog, or Boog, as a community it seems to have lovingly or unlovingly named this thing. In this video we're going to look at the mixer section, following on from the oscillator bank video that was online a short while ago. So the mixer, and we can't look at any of these independently, it's not independent modules, so we're having to use other parts of the synth to demo each part of the synth, if that makes sense. I'm coming out of the mix output, and the first thing is we can mix the three VCOs. We've got on and off switches and a volume. Oscillator 2 and oscillator 1. Oscillator 3. We've also got the noise generator in the mixer section, white noise or pink noise. Now the external input, as the manual states, will take the main output and route that in to the external in when nothing else is present. So the filter has to be open, the amplifier section for the loudness contour and modifier, which is the VCA, has to be open as well, otherwise nothing would happen. So if I get a mix of waves, some noise, I turn up the external volume, nothing currently happens because it's off, but wait till I flick this on. Huge feedback, and it's kind of like a distortion, really filling out that low end. Now I'm coming out of the mix output still, but because there isn't an external input present, the main out is routed in, and the signal is flowing through this semi-modular device, so oscillators into the mixer with the noise generator, into the filter, into the loudness, which I currently have a gate signal into the loudness contour with sustain up full, just to keep this wide open and droning, and the main out's coming through. Evidence that that is the main out would be moving the cutoff on the filter. And this can be fairly subtle, almost sounding like a phaser over the top, or up full. And a little bit more extreme. Now if I just patch into that output from the mix output, and I'll need a stackable cable to do that. So my output is now still where it is, stackable cable. So now the mix output, ignoring the filter and the VCA, is coming into here. That's quite a different sound. We can, of course, use the external input with other sources. So here's an FM oscillator. Just get that in tune. Get the overload indicator. So this is my FM voice. entirely separate to the synth itself. Now, that feedback is useful if we come out of the main out and we set up a sequence playing. So I'm going to use pitch into the volt per octave. Let's take a separate envelope into the filters gate input. Sorry, a separate gate signal into filters input. So we're now coming out of the final out. And that main out will still feed the feedback here, but we've now got varying tones because of the filter, the envelopes, and the VCA. And like I said, it's kind of a strange distortion. It's an odd sounding thing, but feedback can be really useful for pulling in weight, thickness, some saturation, or something just a bit more bonkers. Listen to how that resonance changes. That's without the feedback. Emphasis, which is resonance up full on the filter. You get this really clipped and heavily diminished resonance. So that's the mixer section. 3 volumes for the 3 VCOs with their on and off switches, white and pink noise generators, again with an on and off switch. External input, which with no actual input will take a split of the main output for feedback patching. Great synthesis technique to explore, feedback in itself. We can of course plug an external input in, we can take the mix out with the overload indicator for the external in, and this will feed forward into the filter and the VCA. One final thing, if I move over to the FM voice that you heard earlier, so this is a completely different module, you're not listening to any of this now. We do get the LFO outputs on this section. So LFO sends the pitch of my other oscillator with a rate. Could use that to modulate, well, anything. Here it's modulating FM depth. And we also get the square LFO output. Entirely separate. So that's the mixer section. Future videos we'll be looking at the filter, the envelopes, modulation as a whole, and more in-depth patching tips and tricks with the Model D from Behringer. Hit like, subscribe, thanks for watching, go support me on Patreon if you'd like extra content. Cheers.